history. It often feels like a relentless, chaotic storm of events. A dizzying, unpredictable sequence of triumphs and tragedies, each unique in its time and place. But what if that chaos is just a surface illusion? What if, beneath the endless parade of kings and conquerors, revolutions and reforms, there are deeper, more fundamental currents at play? What if empires, despite their distinct cultures and geographies, tend to collapse in surprisingly similar ways? The journey almost always begins with expansion. A nascent power, driven by ambition, innovation, or necessity, pushes its boundaries. It conquers new territories, assimilates new peoples, or dominates new markets. Think of Rome's legions marching across Europe, the Ottoman Janissaries sweeping through the Middle East, or the Soviet Union's ideological spread after World War II. This isn't just about land. It's about influence, resources, and a growing sense of destiny. This initial phase is often characterized by unity, purpose, and a shared vision for a greater future. This expansion inevitably leads to wealth. New lands bring new resources. Conquered peoples provide labor or tribute. Dominant trade routes funnel riches into the core. Cities flourish, infrastructure develops, and a golden age of art, science, and philosophy often emerges. This wealth fuels further expansion, creating a powerful feedback loop. It's a period of unprecedented prosperity, where the empire feels invincible, its resources seemingly limitless. But here's where the cracks begin to form. As wealth accumulates, it rarely distributes evenly. This leads to inequality. A small elite, often those closest to power or the initial beneficiaries of expansion, amass vast fortunes. Meanwhile, the majority, whether citizens, subjects, or newly integrated populations, find themselves struggling. The gap between the rich and the poor widens, creating resentment and a sense of injustice. The shared purpose that once united the empire begins to fray. This growing inequality inevitably breeds internal division. Different social classes, ethnic groups, or ideological factions find themselves at odds. Political discourse becomes polarized, trust in institutions erodes, and the common good is overshadowed by competing interests. The empire, once a cohesive unit, starts to fracture from within. Resources that were once used for collective advancement are now diverted to maintain order or suppress dissent. The very fabric of society begins to unravel. And finally, the systems themselves become too complex and too fragile to maintain. The empire has grown too large, its bureaucracy too cumbersome, its economy too interconnected, its social structures too rigid. A minor shock, a famine, a border skirmish, a new disease can trigger a cascade of failures. The intricate web of dependencies, once a source of strength, becomes its greatest vulnerability. The ability to adapt, to innovate, to respond effectively is lost in the labyrinth of its own making. Think of Rome, its vast territories and intricate administration eventually buckling under internal strife and external pressures. The Ottoman Empire, once a formidable power, slowly decaying from within as its systems became outdated and its diverse populations grew restless. Or the Soviet Union, its centrally planned economy and rigid political structure unable to adapt to a changing world, leading to its swift and unexpected dissolution. Different cultures, different centuries, different ideologies, yet the same pattern emerges again and again. The lesson isn't that collapse is rare. The lesson is that it's normal. It's a recurring feature of human civilization, a predictable outcome when certain conditions are met. The real question then isn't if these patterns exist, but where are we in them today? Are we in a phase of expansion, wealth, or are the shadows of inequality and division already lengthening? Are our systems becoming too complex, too interconnected, too fragile to withstand the inevitable shocks of the future? Understanding these historical cycles isn't about predicting the future with certainty, but about recognizing the forces at play. It's about learning from the past to navigate the present and shape a more resilient future.